it was really powerful to see someone who had served his country diligently, sacrificed so much, struggle. It was really heartbreaking.
Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. My name is David Gilliland with Elite Entrepreneurs. I'm one of your hosts today. So excited to have Zach Freeman with us. Zach, why don't you tell us just a little bit about your moving company? If I
Sure.
remember right, this is the Veterans Moving America company,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir. We're a values based moving company based in Fort Worth, Texas. We exclusively hire veterans as well. That's one of our really cool, unique features about us. But glad to be here, honored to be here and share our story, our struggles, my lessons, anything I can provide value to your listeners. So thanks for having me.
No, glad to. Zach, from what I understand, you don't have a military background. So how did you decide to do this? Like, you chose to start a business when you were just 22,
Yeah.
coming out of college there at
Mhm.
TCU. Why this?
Yeah, that's people usually ask me why moving and why veterans. I'll
Hmm.
start with the veteran piece. So I'm not a veteran. Both my grandparents served in the military, but that's probably the closest military connection I have within my family. But there was a more profound experience I had in 2008. My family had gotten to know this young Marine, and when the economy took a turn for the worst, his life kind of just disintegrated all within a month. His wife filed for divorce, and he lost his job. And so my family said he could come move in with us for a few months just to help get him back up on his feet. But he ended up living with us for almost 3 years, and it was really powerful to see someone who had served his country diligently, sacrificed so much, struggle. It was really heartbreaking, and he was one of the hardest workers I've ever met. But it didn't seem to matter. He would hop from job to job to job. And I couldn't understand it. But as we got to know him and I got to talk to him, what I found is that he just always felt like he didn't belong. His communication style was pretty blunt and direct, as you would expect, someone like him who was in the military for as long as he was. And that would rub people the wrong way. He would often reach for another tool to connect with people, his sense of humor. But I don't know how much experience you have with military folk. Generally, their sense of humor isn't always appropriate outside of the military, and so that could actually backfire on him. And then a lot of the challenges and things that he was wrestling with, no one could relate to. They didn't share his experience in the military. They didn't have his traumas, and he just always felt alone. And that really stuck with me. And so, a few years later, I was getting ready to graduate from TCU, and decided, what, if there's ever a time in my life to try and start something, why not now? I know I'm young, don't have any money, don't have a lot of, formal business experience, but if it blows up in my face, oh well, you know what? It's just me. I can learn a lot from it, and I can fall back on my other degree in supply chain. And I said, okay, let's go for it. And so my first question was, okay, well, I wanted something that had more meaning. I didn't want to just start, big successful company and make a bunch of money. I mean, we all hope to do that, but I knew that that wasn't going to be a good long-term motivator, and it wasn't going to be that fulfilling. And primarily because of that experience with that Marine, his name was Jason, I decided I wanted to do something to help veterans. And I said, okay, well, we got to provide jobs, so let's hire them. But because of that experience, I said, well, what if we only hire veterans? And that way we could not only provide the most amount of opportunity possible, but maybe if we only hire vets, we can create an environment and a culture that is familiar and supportive, where vets can come to work and be surrounded by like minded people that share similar communication, similar challenges. And maybe that could create an environment that Jason couldn't find. And so that was my theory. And then I said, okay, well, this company has to do something. Moving was my first idea, didn't seem too complicated, and did some market research, looked like a good business opportunity as well. So managed to raise a little bit of money, and here we are 11 years later.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Uh, wow. I mean, just creating that experience, specifically saying I'm building a business to
Yeah.
to serve two communities,
Yeah.
maybe three. Help the veterans, help the people you're moving, and
Yeah.
help yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
the business owner. Uh,
Yeah.
just because it has a cause doesn't mean it's not profitable. And
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit now as you've been building this business,
Hmm.
you passed the $1 million mark, you've grown decently
Hmm.
in there and you've
Hmm.
learned some lessons. What are
Oh
some
boy.
of those lessons you've learned since passing that seven-figure threshold or entering it?
Yeah. Yeah. Similar to raising children, some things get easier, but other things get more complicated and new challenges arise. And so, uh, around that time, we hit the $1 million mark and beyond. One of the things I had to come to terms with was that my role was shifting. Rather than be necessarily as involved in the day to day, I'd now learned how to manage a larger team that I wasn't in the field serving next to. And our team was growing. We had now the buddings of departments. And so figuring out how to change my day to day, but also my management style, was definitely a hurdle for me. Uh, with growth also came just growth in finances, overhead. How do we support the business needs without over investing in overhead or uh, letting costs go out of control? How do we do that? And then processes as well. That was a big thing for me where, there were a lot of SOPs or ways we would do things that served a purpose up to a certain point. But once we got around that, $1 million plus mark, we were finding that those same processes and same way of doing things weren't necessarily serving us at this larger scale. And so we had to find new ways to do things, how to make things more efficient, more scalable. Otherwise, we would just kind of stagnate and flatten off. And I have no interest in staying put where we are. So there's a lot of lessons and a lot of things I had to learn and continue to learn. It's a never-ending process.
Yeah, can you dive down just a little? Let's
Yeah.
get, for instance,
Hmm.
can you share a specific piece? Either I don't know, maybe in the process, maybe in the way you were
Yeah.
approaching it, maybe in the whatever. Give us a
Yeah.
for instance.
Yeah. So I'll talk operationally for us. Um, we had traditionally done a lot of paper, a lot of manual documentation out in the field. We call our moves missions. Uh, that's not a very scalable process. It requires a lot of, obviously time out in the field. There's error prone, and then when you come back to the office, you got to have someone to take all that paper and put it into our different softwares that were all disconnected. And so investing in the right software that was going to be able to support our needs, that was a really big learning curve for me because there's so many different CRMs, so many different accounting softwares and timekeeping softwares and payroll companies and how all these things work together when you start scaling your business. It it was it was a learning curve. I made some mistakes. We tried one, it kind of worked, but it was still tedious. um, operationally, we're continually updating things, documenting things, becoming more consistent. I learned that consistency and efficiency is really important as you start to scale a business above that $1 million mark. And so
Yeah.
I could get as granular as you want, but that's definitely an area that we had to do a lot of work in to continue to grow.
Yeah, if you could go back, because I think a lot of us have made an error in a
Mm-hmm.
software investment
Mm-hmm.
because the salespeople are often a lot better than the implementation of said
Yeah.
service and solution. Uh,
Yeah.
but if you could go back, how would you approach the problem
Yeah.
better?
I think one of the things I would have done differently is rather than look at where the business was then and find something that could suit the needs for then, I would have spent a little bit more time thinking through where am I going? Where do I want to be? And what will the needs be of the business in the future so that we can find a solution now that can grow with us? I think the first time we started doing this, we were really just trying to
put out a
thinking that
fire that was
put out a
burning.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once we get that kind of caught up, pretty soon after, we're like, okay, well, it works better than before, but now we're faced with the same challenge of, well, the thing we just put into place a year ago now isn't keeping us from going, further ahead. So I think
That was a nugget.
spending the time, being patient and really thinking through and doing your best to anticipate the future needs of your business, and then finding the tools that will scale with you. That's something I wish, at least in the first few iterations of going through these challenges, I would have spent a little bit more time doing.
No, I love that. And I mean, that lesson that you just shared applies across everything. And before we got to a million, we were so deep in the trenches. We
Yeah.
never had much time to think about the future except for another sale,
Hmm.
another deal, right? And
Yeah.
fulfilling that. Um, but if we don't make a shift, and for our new software, for our new hires, if we're
Yeah.
not thinking about, but where do I need them to be 2 and 3 years from now?
Yeah.
Right? We hire a different kind of person, don't we?
Yeah, and I've made lots of those mistakes where I, promoted people into positions that, well, they were good at their current role, and we have a need over here. Um, so that naturally that shift will make sense. But again, if you don't keep the future at top of mind, you're kind of setting them up to fail, and you might be limiting yourself without it realizing it. You need to get the right people in the right role that are also capable of not just meeting the current needs, but also the future needs of your business, either through learning how to do it or bringing a different skill set or the appropriate skill set to the table.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that then helped you. You guys got past a hurdle,
Yeah,
which was we've got to get some of these processes
yeah,
tighter and get the systems, the software, and our IT supporting the processes that are going to help us succeed. That was a
yeah.
big step for you. Any
It
other
was.
nuggets you want to share?
I do think, I know we kind of touched on this, but yeah, just the right team and thinking of company structure. Because as your business grows, you may now start to need to separate roles out because, every startup, everyone wears
Yeah,
a
every hat,
thousand
right?
hats.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a long time, we had one person that did sales and operations. Well, at about that $1 million mark, that was no longer realistic. We had to actually split that position into two and figure out how do these departments work together when it's
How does the handoff? How's the connection go? Yeah, absolutely.
exact. And sales and ops can butt heads sometimes because salespeople want to overpromise. If you look at it from the ops side, and then the operations are always frustrated. Why are you saying all this? And the salespeople can get mad. Well, why didn't you do it this way? And so figuring out how to navigate just again the buddings of new departments and what roles you even need, who's responsible for what. Again, similar. It takes a lot of thought and sometimes trial and error.
Yeah, yeah, but intentional, like really
Yeah,
testing it, not
yeah.
just mess up, mess up, mess up. Hope something works one of these times.
Yeah, well, sometimes you can be moving so fast, or maybe you've got a lot of momentum behind you. The temptation is to act quickly, but some of these decisions really do need you to take a breath, slow down, and really think through them because they can have long-lasting implications for you and your business and your team. And so
Yeah,
it's worth the time and it's worth the intentionality. Absolutely.
I love that. The one of the things we see a lot in really great leaders is that on the regular they go through this cycle of identify what do I need to improve in, or what does my team need to, or whatever. Like, let's
Hmm.
really identify not all the things because we can see 1,000 things, but
Yeah,
what's the thing,
yeah,
right? And then taking the discipline to bring the right people in and make a plan,
yeah.
then acting, and then, like you said, and I love this, you're like, take a breath, reflect. What did
Hmm.
we really learn?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
What really came from this? Now, how should we act? Right? New, identify, and just keep that cycle going for
yeah.
intentionally learning. So, yeah, no, really, really great. Thank you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, okay, well, I mean, you're doing well. You've grown past that, 10 people thing, that $1 million mark, or wherever that is for you at the
Yeah.
time in a
Hmm.
services business.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of means you earned your stripes and you're ready for the next challenge, right? You get a bigger mission, A
Yeah.
bigger hill to climb and conquer. What are you
Yeah.
facing now? And maybe we can be of help to you.
Yeah, well, I've always had a really big vision for VMA. I've never been interested in just having a small moving company in one city. We wanted to grow, to across the country, and I want to do more than just moving too. For me, I'll pursue any opportunity that can support veterans, and there's also a business opportunity. So that's sort of our next hill to climb: is how do we continue to grow? How do we expand into different markets, different geographical locations? That's not, I have no experience doing that. Everything has always been managed here. I get to see my team, talk in person with my team, go out and see what we're doing if I need to. And right now, we're trying to get ready to begin that expansion and figure out, okay, what markets, what cities maybe want to expand and add a location. What team would we need to do that? How would we do that? Is it through franchising? Is it through company owned locations? How does our headquarters here in Fort Worth support that operation? Do we do a lot of the stuff here in a centralized spot, or do we do it there? These are the questions we're starting to really try to figure out the answers to, so that we can really start to take off and grow geographically, but also revenue wise and everything else wise. Those are the hurdles we're running into and navigating that process. It,
Yeah, it's a fun one because it's not that your day job went away.
it never goes away. There's a my dad has a saying. I'm sure it's not original, but he goes, Zach, you always have, especially as an entrepreneur, 1,000 things that seem like fires, that seem urgent, nipping at your heels. Don't let those distract you from the important things.
Yeah.
And so sifting those apart, yeah, it's an ongoing challenge, but it's a lifelong lesson that we're all trying to learn. But yeah.
Zach, how many veterans are you employing today?
Right now, I think our team is about 27 at the moment.
Okay,
So
and how many do you feel like your potential and maybe even your mission? What really is it to conquer as a business? How many veterans do you want to see gainfully and happily employed and having impact out there?
I mean, thousands if you ask me, and that could be through what we do now, which is moving. We do order fulfillment for my friend's business, so that's another opportunity. But I want VMA to be known as the go-to resource for veterans and their families when they get out of the military, whether that's directly hiring them or maybe where we become known as, hey, we'll funnel you into different companies that want to hire you. But for me,
Great. So
the
so
sky's the
so
limit.
so we're looking at. I mean, you named it appropriately in the beginning, right? This is for all of America, right?
Yeah,
Like we're going to do this. You want
yeah,
to be known. Maybe this is your 10 or 20-year vision to be the
yeah,
go-to place
yeah,
for veterans when they want to integrate back into society and
yeah.
find a successful great life.
Hmm.
uh, is your team feel that that matters to them too, or is it just a job and they're glad to just have a job?
There's probably a blend of all of the above, but we regularly talk about the vision and the mission for the company.
Okay.
And although right now all that we do is moving primarily, I regularly remind our team that this is just the start, and that when they show up and they're moving furniture in the Texas heat and they're serving our clients, they're helping us build towards a much bigger future. And we do have the vast majority of the team that really means something to them, and
Cool.
they feel part of something that's a lot bigger than just showing up and moving someone from house to house. It's
Yeah.
really cool to have that alignment within the team for sure.
Good. And I think that's one of those key things, especially when you get to say 10 to 30 people,
Yeah.
that that full alignment around purpose matters and getting the right people in there. And then
Hmm.
the process is like you talked about. But now you're at
Yeah.
this stage, 25 to 35 tends to be a bit of a shift
Yeah.
where we've got to build enough of the other leaders
Yeah.
that they can fully carry.
Hmm.
Um, but not just that they can run the operations of today, but that they can help to carry the responsibility to make these decisions you're talking about.
Yeah.
So let me just ask a few more questions. If you
Sure.
don't figure out your expansion,
Hmm.
goals, are you likely to become the go-to place for veterans across America?
If we can't grow in the way that I've always wanted us to, we might become a good go-to place here in the DFW area.
Okay,
But that's
shrinks
too.
down.
Yeah, I mean that's too small for me, man. I mean it's like I said, there are thousands and thousands of veterans and veteran families that could benefit from what we have been able to create as a team here. And they are not just in Dallas Fort Worth. They are
Yeah,
across the country. And so my heart goes out to those people, and that's the biggest motivator and the thing that pumps me up the most is the thought of getting to serve more and more veterans and to create what we've been able to do here other places because they need it, they deserve it. um, and so not growing the way that I want to me just really isn't an option.
okay, great. And we see this as a key thing is how can we together figure out our next strategic move
Hmm.
and go and execute on that, right? It's
Exactly.
it's it's basically instead of saying your mission, you may have crews that their mission is the move of this house or this office,
Sure.
but for the leadership team, their next mission is one of a few things and they need to pick that mission.
Yeah.
Okay. It's either what's the new offering to where the Dallas Fort Worth area we become more ingrained,
Sure.
um, or how do we manage a multiple location and do an expansion play? It's
Hmm.
not an either or, it's a when,
Yeah.
because it sounds like to be what you want to be, you'll need and
Yeah.
on this, right? And so we
Yes.
need a capability of expansion into new markets with
Hmm.
leadership at a distance, culture thriving, processes working across multiple locations.
Hmm.
We'll also need to probably add in these what are the next level services, because
Yeah.
some of these vets come in with some great capabilities that don't want to do moving,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
when are we going to get our private security arm going?
We've
When are
talked
we,
to, yeah,
right? When are we going to get our heavy farm equipment maintenance team,
or
right?
aviation maintenance. There's a
The
lot of,
aviation group. Yeah. Like, I
I
mean,
mean, trust
we're just going to keep listing it, right?
the,
Um,
the, I talk about it. It's a half joke, but it's based out of truth. Is that you could take the company name, Veterans Moving America, you can replace that verb with anything.
and do we have to?
Yeah,
Because aren't we moving America in any of
we're,
those industries?
we are. When you move people, like our clients, we
I'm
move them
just saying.
emotionally. I get it.
Yeah.
We move
Yeah.
people in more way than you think.
I
It's
think
really
we're already
true.
branded just fine. We can go with this. The
Yeah,
next question is, how do we start building these?
yeah.
And here's some first steps that you may already be doing. So
Okay,
let me ask you about this.
sure.
How many others leaders do you have in your group right now that you feel like these are my people that they can lead and they lead well? I depend on them.
Uh, I do have one like full time, operations guy, but if I include the whole team as a whole, I would say we probably have 7 or 8 really strong leaders that don't just go out and do a good job. They have the vision and the mission of the company
Great.
first and foremost. So I'm very blessed to have an incredible team.
Great. So what you have right now is bench strength. You've
Hmm.
got some in position and then some bench strength built. Fair.
Hmm. Fair.
Okay. Um, here's the next question. How often do you pull this group together, formally or informally, to present the strategic issues or to identify the strategic issues and start discussing which one would help us move the needle the best way right now? How often does that conversation happen with those
With
people?
Yeah, with the whole group, probably quarterly.
Okay, so you
With
you have a
where I'm involved, but we do a monthly team meeting, but that's with everyone. We don't always tackle all the strategic issues, but
no,
quarterly,
and
yeah,
shouldn't, right?
yeah,
We got to do
yeah,
operational on the monthly. Tell me
yeah,
about your quarterly meetings.
yeah. I call them our quarterly priority meeting. I forget what I call it exactly, but it's really just key leaders in the organization. We sit down and we say, okay, for the next quarter, what are our top 3 priorities? And we also spend some time looking at what we had said in the previous quarter and said, okay, we said we wanted to focus on this. Maybe it's, culture. We really need to make sure our culture is strong. Maybe we feel a little slip over here. We're, getting a little out of alignment. How did we do that? How well did we do? We kind of grade ourselves,
I love
and
it.
then maybe we copy and paste it moving forward. Hey, we still need to focus on that. Maybe we did a great job and or something else has popped up.
How
So
do you pick those top priorities?
that's a great question. Um, because there's always, again, 1,000 things you could do,
Yeah.
but they're gonna be the ones that I think have the largest impact as a whole on the organization. So you don't want to get so nitty gritty where it's, well, we have a
Yeah,
people are showing.
we don't want to do these small things. Like I don't want to talk about parking lot issues.
Yeah,
We want to talk about this is only the big stuff. Great.
yeah,
Who is picking those issues?
yeah. I do defer a lot to my team. I mean, I have my own priorities and the bigger vision, so I'll usually throw at least one of those things in there, top of mind for me. But I do rely on my team to some extent because they're doing a lot more of the day to day. They're going to have a better finger on the pulse of the team and the organization and our clients since they're interacting together more often. They may say something that I would have had no idea about. And
Okay.
so, yeah,
Then I'm in a so yes, and I love that. What the powerful thing is that you're co-creating with them. You're helping
hmm
to see this. Uh, the question of how do we expand
yeah.
and which way do we go doesn't actually probably come up on their radar as frequently
One or
unless you
two of
place it
them,
there
yeah, one or two of them it does because they actually want to be one of the people that goes
and does.
and does it. My ops guy
Fantastic.
being the first example, he's like, I want to have a location of my own. I said, great, let's figure out how we're going to do that for you. So it
Good.
comes up more with him. And there's, another guy that, kind of wants to take over a location also in particular.
So
But you're
you've
right.
got a
If you don't
couple.
talk about it, hmm
Yeah, you've got a couple that their own desire, their own drive is pushing
yeah,
them to go and do, which is awesome, right?
it's
Definitely team
incredible.
members we want to have.
Yeah.
Um, in that meeting, when you're there and you're doing the review of the past and you're looking towards the future, are you holding up the mission? And remember, like here's our 20-year goal is to be the go-to resource for
Mhm.
veterans when they're trying to right whatever
Yeah.
and here's our 10-year. We want to have let's say 20,000 veterans employed across the US.
Sure.
Okay. I mean that's big.
Doesn't scare me.
I
It
love
is
it.
big. Yeah.
Or whatever the number is that the team jointly says, let's go do this.
Yeah.
And if we put that out there, like, okay, here's the dates, here's the time from here to there.
hmm
Now, the dissonance between where we are today and the fulfillment of that mission, which we're going to storm that hill by this date.
Yeah.
If that's where we need to go, tell me about the crew we have to build. Tell me about the skills we have to have on that team. Tell me about the
hmm
processes we've got to go, and we've got to figure out the order we start pulling this off in. When they
Yeah.
start planning out that 10-year thing, have you had
hmm
that discussion with them?
Probably not in that level of detail for something that far out. But
Yeah.
it's a good point because that is important. If that's where you want to go, you do need to set that big, firm date goal and then work backwards from there. So
It
that's good
doesn't mean
feedback.
that you'll have all the details nailed on the
Yeah.
10-year thing. It
Yeah.
just has to be enough to
Yeah.
inspire and challenge where they're like,
Yeah.
whoa, okay, I see where we're going. All of a
hmm
sudden, this quarter, although it would be nice if we figured out how to route the trucks better for
hmm
less gas usage and get a little
Yeah.
more efficient, although it would be nice, um, we could probably just leave that with one of the teams to figure out.
Yeah.
This leadership team, need to tackle issues that are bigger. So,
Yeah.
so put something out there that we get a date that we have 5 metrics that matter to us or 2 metrics that matter to us by that
Yeah.
date. That together they're picking it. Together they're saying, I feel like if we got to there in 10 years or in 5 years, I would feel like we're making serious progress. We're on track
Yeah.
for that bigger one that you've already said, your purpose up there. So let's
Yeah.
let's let's get something. Then start saying, okay, now that we know where that is,
Hmm.
Let's do a level, and this may be another day on your quarterly. You still have to
Sure.
do your normal quarterly that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's really critical, is to get really dialed in on this quarter.
Yeah.
But we need to get dialed in enough on this one that the this quarter stuff starts to say we can't miss this. So
Yeah.
this quarter, let's investigate three more markets. Let's
Yeah.
let's identify talent that could run it, and let's think about what a marketing scheme would be to where demand is calling for us when we land,
Man.
right? Or even
Yeah.
let's go sell it like crazy and we'll just outsource to other people
Uh-huh.
until we're ready to move into it. Whatever your plan is to get
Yeah. Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
but we need to do something this quarter. If we don't do it this quarter, we don't get there 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So if progress isn't made this quarter towards it, it's not happening. We are a
Mm.
Dallas Fort Worth 25 people impact business, which is still wonderful and powerful. It's just not as big as you wanted and not as big as these team members want. So
Yeah.
let's help them achieve their dreams. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Fantastic.
that would be the difference I would make. It sounds like you've got the right talent. You've got people who want this. They've got the vision. Add that one piece in on that
Yeah.
quarterly to get very clear of. And in time it'll roll in pretty fast where you're like, "Oh yeah, that's just what's on the board and we're always
Yeah.
tracking progress towards it." So this quarter, now my priorities get tighter. Oh, this and this. There's
Mm.
10 things we could be doing, but these are the ones we're picking. And there's more nuances to this, but
Sure.
that's my first thought. What else?
Yeah.
I mean, push back. How will this not work with your team? Or what other ideas do I need to share to make this more
No.
practical?
No. It sounds like such a simple thing, but just like one of the challenges that I think any business owner entrepreneur faces is you can get so caught in the weeds.
Hmm.
You get stuck working, in your business, not on your business, and
Yeah,
so quarterly goals are great. But you're right. If I have a much bigger goal of where I want to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, you do need to not just talk about those goals loosey goosey. You need to actually start taking action.
that's right.
Uh,
Measurable progress every quarter. And I'm going to bring together special forces teams
mhm.
that we have one person on the executive team gets to be the general or the let's make them someone they like, the
Sure.
sergeant.
Yeah. There you
Right.
go.
We get one person is the sergeant, and then they pull together a special forces team
Yeah.
that work for that quarter. They're pulled from different parts. They're just doing a couple hours on it in a week,
Yeah.
but they're all making progress. They're working on the cool stuff, and then they get to go back to their day jobs the rest of the time. And at the end of the quarter, boom, disbanded. A new team's brought together for the next priority. Now, they may be similar, especially if there's handoff in there, but
Sure.
now you're building new leaders. You're getting all the rest of the team excited about the big vision because they're actively doing something other than just moving people's homes.
Yeah. And we
Okay,
have the
so
right people. Yeah, we have some people on the team that have the drive and the desire to do that type of stuff.
that's right. Let's
We
pull them
need,
in. Let's give them the
yeah.
opportunity, the time and space. That's coming to our time limit. So
Okay.
most people have now heard the podcast. They've pulled up into their driveway. Uh, but Zach, I really appreciate, first of all, the great work you're doing and the great way you're approaching it.
Thank you.
And then the questions you brought that I think are so relevant to all of us.
Mm.
We may not be working with veterans, but we're working with people who need to find a place they belong and
Yeah,
need to find a sense of contribution that they
absolutely.
can go and have impact in the world. And
Hmm.
the things you're doing are making that happen. And hopefully we
Oh,
inspire a few more of the people listening to do the same. How
well,
do
thank
people
you.
get in touch with you if they want to use your
Yeah.
services or if they're thinking to themselves, I want to partner up with this guy. I'm already in
Yeah.
Wisconsin or I'm already in whatever.
Yeah.
Let's think of another way to expand.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can find us online, veteransmovingamerica.com. We've got social media presence. If you want to just talk about hiring vets or helping us expand, you can email me directly. I don't mind. My email's Zach, ZACH, at vmafamily.com. You can call us at the office, 817 989 6362. If you're moving within DFW, You can, again, website or phone call. If you're moving to or from DFW, we do long distance moves, packing, unpacking, storage, you name it. We've got a whole host of services, but that's probably the best way to get a hold of us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again. And that wraps up this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we've explored some of the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. If you've liked what you've heard, please like and share, get it to others so they too can be inspired by the things that Zach shared with us today. Um, until next time, keep growing, keep striving, keep learning, and keep caring.